Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Mike DeBord, president of B3 Sciences. I want to welcome you to tonight's presentation. Now, many of you have been doing BFR, so you're going to hear some new terminology tonight. What you're seeing is the evolution of what BFR has become. It's become a biological breakthrough in exercise. People like Tammy that have been here 8 or 9 years. It's the same concept, but now we understand it, and our methods are better at applying it. If you're new tonight, somebody invited you, told you about something exciting. Maybe you heard about exercise in 5 or 10 minutes, no pain, elevate growth hormone, what all the Olympic athletes are doing. If you're new tonight, you're going to see a revolutionary breakthrough in exercise. I want to thank Tony Marinazzi that I've recently met. I have been writing a book for about a year, and Tony has helped me refine that book. And you might hear a little bit of that story tonight. And what has evolved in this venture that I've gone through for 10 years is what we call the discovery of biologic exercise, biological, and how just 5 to 10 minutes a day or even 1 minute, you can make significant changes in your body. This book will be coming out probably in early September. I look forward to sharing it all with all of you. What we've uncovered and then developed is a seismic shift in how we approach exercise. It's not a fad. It's not a new workout video. It's not a new gizmo or gadget. You're going to see the science. This is a breakthrough in both science and evolution in exercise. And obviously, minutes a day is profound. But before we can understand how we got here, we have to know, where did we come from? And as we look back at exercise, no pain, no gain is not where this started. It goes all the way back, exercium, the Latin word, to the 14th century. It was a way to prepare your body to be strong and skillful. And as it developed, it was a preparation for life, for function and adaptability. Read those two words there. It wasn't about waking up and being sore and micro-tearing muscle. It was for life, for function and adaptation. Well, along came the 20th century, and along came the bodybuilding culture, where all of a sudden, and many people, the Romans and the Greek, started implementing this, and it evolved into a punish or exhaust the body, not adapt, not precision, but punish or adapt and see how far the body can be pushed and change. And we switched to an external mode of exercise, where distance, weight, intensity, time are more important than what's happening in the body. And you're going to see my story. I lived it. I bought in hook, line, and sinker to the no pain, no gain era that we were all exposed to. At the age of 20, I had been lifting for 2 or 3 years, and I was starting to see the breakdown. Not at 30, I was already seeing at 20, but I didn't care. No pain, no gain. That's what everything was about. Go hard or go home. You've heard these terms. Soreness is required. You can't build muscle unless you micro tear. And more is better. Well, I reached a point in my life after doing this, surgeries, therapies, to where I couldn't do it anymore. And I find it is interesting over the last 10 years, and many of you are living it. It's interesting, not just from what you see, but it challenges all these norms. And here's what we found out. At some point, everybody gives up the no pain, no gain lifestyle. If that's the case, and you got to give it up at 35, and it's not obtainable at 45, or it's not sustainable at 55, why were we even doing it in the first place? And that broke me. I was looking at a third joint replacement. And you look up in the corner, I was having bad dreams about how I looked in the middle mirror. I no longer walked around without a shirt. Couldn't find my six pack. It disappeared. It was like the Bermuda Triangle, didn't matter what I did. And I was in a bad place, like many of us get, that place of acceptance that this is just how life's going to be. And then something amazing happened. I kind of relate it to when I had my first and second kids, Easton and Colin, or I met my wife, Sylvia, and we were connected by working out together in the bands. It was the day a friend of mine called me and said, the Japanese are doing something that nobody knows about it. Well, of course they are. The Japanese are healthier, they're fitter, and they live longer. They had been doing blood flow restriction. He comes over to my house and he says, hey, Mike, what if in 5 to 10 minutes you could use super lightweights, do something fun, and create a change in your body that would build muscle strength and burn fat like you worked out for an hour? Well, I start to chuckle and I realized this is Jim. He's one of our top Olympic trainers. So he comes over and he puts these real interesting bands on my arms. Now, at the time, they had wires. It had a little kind of like Game Boy. So it was real sophisticated and it was very expensive, things we would have to fix. And he looks over at the weights and he says, grab the little pink ones, the 2-pounders. And I'm saying to myself, dude, that ain't going to do anything. Now, you've all experienced it. If you've tried the bands, you start doing an exercise like a squat with no weight or bicep curls. And here comes the pump and the burn. And your brain goes, what is happening? I know what this is, but how is this possible? And then I do my legs. No weights, no 100-pound on my shoulders, no 40-pound kettlebell, no very deep movements, just kind of light pulse squats. And I had bad knees. And here comes the pump and the burn. And I get done with this 3-minute arms and 4-minute legs. And not only do I have the pump and the burn, but I've got the gym buzz, the runner's high, and my shoulder and my knee stopped hurting. Now, they had been hurting for 20 years. Can you imagine? It's like somebody put me in a time machine and took me back to age 16. And I didn't know it then, but as Tony says, it was biological. It's biological, Dr. Mike. He's reading my book and he's seeing these little words. And at that time, I didn't know what it was, but it was biological. What does that mean? It was an adjustment. And all of you have probably gone through that adjustment. Some of you are still transitioning in this adjustment. You're trying to break free of the norms. And I switched to 10 to 15-minute workouts, not heavy weights, no more heavy squats, no bench pressing, no swollen knee, no getting out of bed in the morning and taking 5 minutes to loosen up all the sore joints, no pain, muscle return, six-pack came back. And I transformed into a biological mode. Now, again, I didn't know what it was, but I had a surgery coming up. And many of you have had these kind of surgeries. I couldn't avoid it. The damage was already done from the no pain, no gain lifestyle. I had another hip replacement. And let me tell you, the third time I left the orthopedic doctor's office and he said, Mike, there's only one thing left to do, I sat in my car and cried. I've only cried a couple times in my life, but I sat there and cried. How could the traditional exercise model have failed me? I'm a chiropractor. Heck, I'm a certified sports chiropractor. I educate people. They come in my office and I treat them. How could I have failed so badly? Well, I had the bands from Japan. And then we were in the process of perfecting a newer band that you're seeing there, one of the first generation B3 bands. That's me 2 hours after surgery on a hip replacement. Now, I also had the right knee cleaned out. So I had both the knee cleaned out and the right hip replaced. What am I doing? Sitting on the edge of the bed, doing bicep curls. Then when I'm at home, I'm working out my hip muscle. And then that's me at 5 weeks running up and down the steps with a 10-pound weight jacket. Now imagine this. My muscle's coming back. My six-pack is returning. Look, I mean, you can start to see my definition there in the hospital. And then I heal from a joint replacement in 5 weeks. And then I started seeing if I could replicate it. Could this translate into different people? I put it on my son, who his dream was to play college football. I gave it to his trainer, Vic. I said, Vic, I don't care what the exercise, you're going to do it faster and quicker, but it's going to be in the bands. And he had all the technology. My son's fastest 40-yard dash time was a 4.62. 8 weeks later, he goes up to Ohio State. No, I'm not there. And he calls me all excited, almost crying. Dad, I ran a 4.35. I was the fastest kid at an Ohio State camp, and there were 4 and 5 stars there. Now, we had seen this. We saw it in the 8 weeks of training, kind of like what you're going to hear Dr. Russell talk about tonight. In 3 weeks, he's seeing amazing results. And then people like Janine. When I met Janine, oh, she was a workout person. She owned a gym. 2 hours. She lived it. Pound, punish, more is better. She eventually switched over to 15, 10, 20 minutes. And hopefully you'll hear her story one day. Body fat dropped from 23% down to 15, 8% drop on somebody who's been training her whole life. Muscle went up. And then she goes to her doctor, and her doctor says, you don't need your thyroid medication anymore. She switched to training biologically and signaling her body, but it didn't stop there. Holly, I met Holly. She was in a wheelchair, over 360, 70 pounds. We just put the bands on her arms and we did a 1-minute activator. Started turning the signal on. Eventually, she loses 200 pounds and gets her life back. And then I meet Anthony. Anthony, multiple car accidents. There's a picture of Anthony, couldn't walk. I put the bands on him in Las Vegas. And I say, Anthony, just sit down in a squat, hold your walker, give me the burn, and then 20 seconds. That's it, Anthony. He takes them off after 1 minute and looks at me and said, what did you just do? I feel the muscle. There's Anthony 9 months later. Got his life back. We used biological signaling, not force, not load, not no pain, no gain, precision. But then I was ridiculed. I start meeting strength coaches and power lifters, and they laugh at me. Doctors tell me, oh, you're going to cut off blood and kill somebody. That won't work. Person after person after person. If you don't micro tear Mike, it won't work. That just is a gimmick. I was resisted. I was ridiculed. I was ignored. And then I meet Chris Duffin. Oh, this guy doesn't get ridiculed. They call him the mad scientist, one of the most famous power lifters in history. And he had a goal: squat and deadlift 1,000 pounds, not once, but for reps. Nobody had ever done it. Not on squats, not on reps, not squat, not deadlift, not one rep on either one. He was going to do both in 2 reps of each. He used BFR. It was his secret. If you ever want to know how he did it, watch the podcast we did. He squatted and deadlifted 1,000 pounds for reps. Then the strength community starts paying attention. Now we got the Olympic weightlifting team, Mitchell Hooper, world's strongest man, doing it. Nobody ridicules me anymore when you see these results. As I'm going through this, many of you have gone through it yourself. The challenge. Now, wait a second. Okay, I did 5-10 minutes of bands, but tomorrow I've got to go work out for 2 hours. I've got to micro tear, because if I don't, it's not going to work. Hey, I'm not sore. If I'm not sore, and you go through this adjustment, many of you have gone through it as you transition from external force-based training to internal signal-based training. And then you come out the other side. And it's amazing. This is what I was going through, not knowing that much of this was spiritual. You know, we all know where the biology came from, right? We know who created it. And I knew something was special about this and what I had to do. Here's where we arrived. And I didn't arrive there alone. Many of you arrived with me. Janine, is one of them. Judy Kay, she's been here for a while. Dr. Carl, I can name hundreds of people. Gaylord, right? No pain, no gain is not sustainable. Your biology was not designed for repeat punishment. Oh, it'll work for the short term, and for people with perfect recovery and perfect joints, it'll last for a long time. But for the majority, that's most of us on here, all it does is create a price tag. I was on this biological tab. I had an account with biology. And just like a bar tab, that bill is going to come due because eventually biology breaks. I remember getting into the cardio trap. Nothing against cardio or endurance athletes. I understand why. But as we understand science, the human body's not built for infinite miles. You ever seen a dog go for a 5-mile jog? You ever seen a kid on the playground say, hey, come on, hey, everybody, let's go for a 10-mile run? Only adults do that. At some point, we said, let's go out and pound and punish ourselves. And again, has some short-term benefits, but it's not built for the human body. Now, 10 years later, after getting these many downloads spiritually, after experiencing 3,500 sessions, not 10, 3,500, after reading every study, after seeing thousands of stories, after teaching this to people, and then reading the science that's actually coming in behind us and elevating us more, not out in front of us. We are out in front of the science. I have a viewpoint that I don't think anybody in the world has, not because I'm the smartest guy, because I've seen it, I've watched it, and I've read the science. And let me tell you something. We're doing something nobody else has even come close to doing. Why are all these pro teams doing it now? Baseball teams, Mayo Clinics, Elite Forces is getting ready to do it, Kansas City Chiefs. Why? Because it works, and it is proven scientifically. For the new people and those on the call, let's review what it does, and then let's give you a couple visuals to see if it makes sense. We put the bands on. The bands simply reduce oxygen. We'll talk about on the next slide. How do they do that? We just put some air in it. Now, it's not a blood pressure cuff. It's completely different. A completely different, precise, precision function. And then we use a lightweight. We don't grab a heavy weight. We don't start sprinting. We don't get on the Peloton for an hour. We do light exercise. And within 20, 30 seconds, you feel the pump and the burn that says, we're doing high intensity here. Why am I feeling high intensity, but I'm doing low intensity? That's the breakthrough. And then you feel the burn. You see, that's where it all starts. The burn. That's not where it ends, where I used to have to stop at 45 and all broken down. I had to stop at the burn. I couldn't keep going. Well, of course, if that's where it starts and the growth hormone kicks in, of course I'm going to lose my muscle, hurt, and have body fat. And then the magic, what we've uncovered. How long do you maintain the burn? See, the method and the signals now matter. And I'm going to teach you some of those tonight. Because when you hit the right signal, the frequency, kind of like Tesla did when he changed direct current to alternating current. He figured out we don't need more brute force electricity. We need precision frequency. When you do that in the human body, it activates your anabolic system. And I'm not talking about like traditional exercise, better than traditional exercise. Now, you all know what altitude training is. We go up to altitude, we put the mask on, we fatigue quicker. Well, this is kind of similar. We're reducing the blood flow, just putting a little pressure on one of the major veins in your arms and legs. We're not getting down to the artery. You're not going to cut off your blood flow. You're not going to feel thump, thump, thump like a blood pressure cuff, unless, of course, you use the wrong kind of band, which I hope you don't do, and you reduce oxygen. Well, if you reduce oxygen in the muscle, you'll fatigue faster, just like you do at altitude training. You've all got it. It's not more complicated than that. Of course, look, we can go into the biology, but this is it. the biological breakthrough of reducing oxygen in the muscle. And whether you're doing cardio or weight training, or using the tubing, or going up and down the steps, or yoga, or Pilates, or swimming, it works both sides. You know how you're supposed to go to the gym and do cardio and strength training? This is just one exercise creating both. Not going to go deeper into that. We'll come back to that on a different topic. The research proves it. 12,000 results on Google Scholar. Not a few, 12,000. 500 peer reviews. Scientific validation that is proving what we've developed is on track. Muscle, strength, performance, physical therapy, cardiovascular benefits, bone, aging, immune, brain, adolescent, sarcopenia. Here's just one of those studies. We all know it's about growth hormone. And here's what's fascinating. You don't grow because you overstimulated the muscle. You grow because you stimulated growth hormone. Now, sure, you got to have some tension in the muscle, but you don't have to micro tear it. You got to elevate growth hormone. In this study, this was on middle-aged men, typical non-exercisers, 25 times increase in growth hormone doing light BFR versus heavy weights. Not 25%, not 2.5x, 25x. It's like taking a sedentary man and dropping him in the Olympic Training Center. And when you hear Dr. Russell tonight, who in 3 weeks has seen changes that should take 3 years, you'll understand it. He's 5-10x in his growth hormone, and he was already working out. Now imagine a kid or a couch potato or somebody who can't lose weight or an athlete trying to break through a plateau or somebody who has had to quit because their body hurt and being able to turn this back on. Multiple peer reviews show that muscle size grows similar to heavy weightlifting. Both muscle and strength improve. Metabolism, endurance, as well as strength. Vascular function. Your cardiovascular system improves. Hopefully you'll return when we talk about heart and blood pressure and blood sugar, because it has a serious impact on these parts of the body, as well as anti-inflammation in the body. And the transition is now complete. You see, I didn't just go through a transition in switching like you're doing from 60 to 10, from pain to function, from no muscle to strength, from waking up sore to waking up fresh. I went through a scientific understanding transition, and thanks to many of you, I now understand it. And along with you, I don't think anybody in the world even has a fraction of this understanding that we have. Exercise is about signaling. You see, your muscles don't know the difference. You can grab a 5-pounder or you can grab a 40. The muscle doesn't know. It only knows if you send the signal, and the signal's the burn. And it only knows if you're running out of oxygen. You could be walking or running. You could hit the stadium stairs, do the Peloton, or walk around the house. Walking with the bands, your body will think you're running up down the stairs. Your body doesn't know. It only knows fatigue. And the signals, without getting into a lot of science, are reducing oxygen. You're breathing faster, but reducing it enough to cause change. And then creating the burn. You know, the pump and burn in your muscles, that's lactate. Lactic acid's not even a scientific term, but let's just keep using it. It's really lactate that's being produced when you create the burn. These are the only two signals that matter. Time doesn't matter. Load doesn't matter. Now, time matters in how you create the signal. That's where we get precise. And here's the summary. More pain does not equal more results. Joins it. Pain is a joint signal, everyone. It's a damage signal. Burn is a biological signal. When you send the right signal, the results are going to change. This is a biological breakthrough. And from this day forward, we're going to start talking about it this way. Yes, we're using BFR, but our methods, our systems, what people like Dr. Tom has figured out that he's showing his patients, this is a exercise breakthrough. And as Tony says, it was preeminent. It had to happen. Now, why 5 minutes? You might have heard me talk about 5 minutes in the email. Let's talk about why 5 minutes is important, because that is what's required to start sending the full signal. Now, just know that the goal of sending the signal is to put you in adaptate mode, not stress mode. You see, at some point in your life, whether it's a teenager when you overtrain, or you're 70 and it beats your joints up too much, or your 40s and your hormone switches, exercise starts putting you in stress mode, no matter what you do. And then many people quit. The goal is to get back into adaptative mode. And it led me to developing the 1, 5, 10-minute method. Now, you've heard most of this. We're just going to put it in a system. 1 minute to activate, 5 minutes to adaptate. I know adaptate's not a real word, but that's what we're going to call it because it just kind of sounds cool, right? And accelerate. Activator, adaptator, accelerator, 1, 5, or 10 minutes. But here's the key. The key is what you create in that time. 50% of the time in the burn is the right signal. For people who are a little deconditioned, we'll start at 30, 40%. For elite athletes, we'll get up to 70%. Activator, 1 minute. We're going to talk about why you do this. I do this every morning. I do it when I'm tired. Squats, biceps, stairs, wall sits, easy. 1 minute, feel the burn, go for 30 seconds, take them off. Adaptator. What we're saying here is we want the burn, we want to activate, but now we want to go get some growth hormone, and we want to build, repair, regenerate. 5 minutes, legs, arms, cardio, tubing, bike, yoga, up and down the steps, going to the grocery store. 10 minutes to 20 minutes, that's the accelerator. This is where you push the turbo button. Remember that turbo button on the video games? You're driving, right? And there's that little turbo button you hit once in a while. Man, you go fast. That's what this is. This is the accelerator. And you can do it all kinds of different ways. What happens when you do 1 minute? As soon as you feel the burn, your body starts releasing nitric oxide. Don't worry about the chemical pathway tonight. This is where you get energy, circulation, pain relief, and an immune system boost. In 1 minute, I get up, put my bands on, up and down the stairs, take them off. I'm ready to go for the day. When you want growth hormone, you don't just want to activate. You want to go get growth hormone and rebuild, repair, and anti-age. You got to get up at 5 minutes or more. This is the threshold. And then if you want to accelerate, on days when I have time, I go 10 to 12 minutes because I want to maximize results, anti-aging, muscle strength, metabolism. But the 5 minute, this is what we figured out. This is the threshold. It's the amount of signal that you need. How did I figure it out? I traveled around, measured hundreds and hundreds of people. I measured their blood lactate. Because if you don't elevate blood lactate, create enough burn, you don't get any growth hormone. And we started doing these 4 and 5 minute workouts, and we do 10, 15. And I watched what it did. 5 minutes is like the optimizer to create growth hormone. And all those people there, those are just some of the people we measure. Now, how do you do it? Now you choose. I like to do arms for 4 or 5 minutes, and I get my growth hormone and nitric oxide. And then I like to do legs for 4 minutes, or you can get real crazy and do Ocho Loco for 8 minutes. Start at 3 or 4, build up to 8. You're in that 5 minute range, pushing up to the 10-minute range. Now, of course, you can go more, but what are we doing? We're flipping this. We're flipping the body out of stress mode because you've got a lot of stress you carry into this, and we're switching it back into adaptative mode. We're flipping the teeter-totter. We're flipping the hormones. We're getting rid of the cortisol. All of this for a different presentation. Secret number 3. Number 1, 1, 5, 10. Number 2, 50%. Number 3, how to know which mode you're in. I'm not going to talk about this tonight. We'll do it on a different presentation. But all you have to do is listen to your body. Let me tell you what you should stop doing. Stop listening to the fitness culture, not the professionals, the culture, the isms, the no pain, no gain, go hard, go home. You got a micro tear. just throw that away. Your body will tell you what is right. And when you listen to it, and I'll teach you how, you'll put your body in adaptive mode. You'll hear from a lady tonight, 60 years old, just got her professional card in fitness physique at 60. She knows what the right signal is. You'll hear from Dr. Russ. Okay. So let's go tonight to our first story. This is Carol Lake. Now, Carol's been using the bands for the last 5 years, and I'm going to leave this up and then we'll bring her on live with me. But Carol recently got her pro card. This is big deal. There's amateur and there's traveling around doing events. Then there's pro cards. She's now a professional figure competitor, and she's doing it at 60 years old, competing with people in their 40s and 50s. So first I want to congratulate her. But let's go now and let's bring her up with me. Let's highlight her. And I'll just leave her on the highlight here. I'll talk. But Carol, first of all, congratulations on that pro card.
Thank you.
That was awesome. So Carol, tell us first of all, right? How long have you been using the bands? And just briefly, couple ways you use them for some of the people on the call.
Okay, so it's been at least 5 years, and I use them, put them on when I'm at home. If I only have 10 minutes, arms, legs, I run up and down my steps, and then I'm doing a bunch of push-ups. So that helps me when time is of essence. And then when I go into the gym, I put them on my legs, arms, but I start off with the stepper, and I do it for about 10 minutes until I feel the fatigue, the burn, still keep them on, and I go over do leg extensions, the hamstrings, get in some biceps. So that's probably, sometimes I'm wearing them a good 20-ish minutes, take them off because I felt the burn, and then I'm like really energized after, wearing them. And then it makes my workout seem like it's a piece of cake. I have more energy, feel great. And yeah, it doesn't take long to wear them. And what I've noticed is that when I started using them, I started seeing the muscle definition. I call it my fountain of youth. So along with that fountain of youth, I make sure I'm eating clean, lean, and green. And it's my go-to. I pack them. When I travel, they go with me. And if I can only get 5 minutes in, I'm wearing them for 5 minutes because I want to feel that burn, because I know I'm creating that human growth hormone. And I feel like, for me, I'm aging in reverse. So that's why on there, I have one of these beautiful little weights. When I'm competing, you have to measure your fat, muscle mass, and my fat is only like 13.5%. Muscle mass is way up there. But this allows me then to know that what I'm doing with these BFR bands, they're amazing. Burn calories, look good, feel good. I tell everybody it's my fountain of youth.
So Carol, to stay in this kind of shape, right, and be able to compete in that level, you're probably sore a lot, right? You probably have a lot of pains. 60 years old. No? Never sore.
I actually feel better than I did in my 20s. I feel better now than I did back then. You got to listen to your body. That's the first
Yes.
thing. So, I mean, if you're feeling pain, that's the signal. Stop. Something's not right. When I put on the BFR bands, I feel the burn and I have to go, "Ugh, this hurts." But I know what it's doing for me.
Yes.
So you're right. I grew up with that mentality too. No pain, no gain. Hey, I was a competitive gymnast. Hello. I was in there beating myself up. But here today, no, put the bands on, and when I compete, that's my secret. So I can go up there and show all that muscle mass and the leanness, and present myself up on that stage. So yeah, they are my go-to for exercising.
Yeah, and speaking of the fountain of youth, right? Most people,
Yeah.
unfortunately, at our age, Carol, I'm 62, right? They're worrying about blood pressure, high cholesterol, blood sugar, diabetes, bone density. You probably don't worry about any of that, do you?
Nope, nope. And I teach my clients the exact same thing. If you want to stay strong and healthy, get the bands, have a great diet, plenty of water, sunshine, and a positive mindset. That is
Uh,
what is going to push us through to longevity.
Well, thanks, Carol. You're going to be a great motivation for everybody on the call, and I'm
Right.
going to be anxiously watching some of your upcoming pro events.
A-
You're in the major leagues now, aren't you?
Absolutely. And I can't wait to compete. So thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks for joining us. Okay, let's go back to I'll just pull up the presentation here real quick. I want to introduce Dr. Russell Brockstein. Let me get it up here real quick so we can see his slide. This is the other end of the spectrum. This is Dr. Russell Brockstein. I just met him 3 weeks ago at New Jersey. And the interesting thing about Doc is he's no dummy. This guy knows training. He's wrote a book on the next health evolution. And he's seen it all and he's done it all, right? He's already been working out. Well, he switched over, not completely, but he's made a fast transition into the B3 bands in 3 weeks. And this is what happens when you switch over. We're going to bring Dr. Russ on here. Doc, let me have you unmute there.
There we go.
Hey, Doc.
Did I lose you?
Nope, I think you're there. Do you hear us?
Hold on. Yeah, my screen just changed. Okay. I just want to say, Dr. Mike, it was amazing meeting you at the ANJC convention. It was the week before Memorial Day weekend. It takes a lot to impress me, and I was kind of like skeptical at first with what you were talking about, but when you put the bands on us, outside in the hallway, I thought you were kidding when you said that you would feel burn in about 20 seconds. I haven't felt burn like that in a long time. And, I played very competitive soccer till I was 35, destroyed my joints. And, even with my bad joints, I would try and do leg press in the gym, like 500 pounds, wouldn't feel the burn, but I couldn't go any heavier than that just because my joints wouldn't take it. But when I put the leg bands on and you told me to do, see how many squats I could do to get the burn, and it was like, I think it was 10 or 15 reps. And I was like, holy cow, I haven't felt a burn like that since maybe my mid-teens to early 20s. And, I used to exercise about maybe an hour and a half, 4 days a week in the gym. And I would see little gains here and there, but I'm now in my mid 50s. And instead of working out an hour and a half the 4 days a week, I'm down to about a half an hour each time. And when I go to the gym, I just do a little bit of that warm up, maybe 2 minutes with the bands on, warm up. I would keep them on to do my regular routine. And not only is the time of my workouts decreased significantly, I don't need to do the heavy weights. I'm saving my joints. And then the other 3 days a week that I don't go to the gym, I'm doing like at most 10 minutes every morning when I wake up. And I'm still learning my body with this. So I'm trying to get to that point where I know where I'm not doing too much because I'm still in that mindset that I have to do that. But it's just awesome because I feel the pump when I'm exercising, which I didn't feel previously. And even my friends, and I'm not joking about this. I started, I think it was the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. So actually the weekend Memorial Day started, because because I met you the week before, and then I got my bands 5 days later. I'm like, okay, Friday Memorial Day weekend, I'm starting. Within 3 days, my friends were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Your arms are bigger." Like, my clothes just fit differently. But cardio, I used to try and push myself to 30, 40 minutes. Now I just do 10 minutes with the bands on, and I feel the difference. And that's a big thing to me. Decreasing the stress on my joints, that took a beating for years of soccer. And I just couldn't speak more highly enough of what BFR has done in just 3 weeks. And I can't wait to see what it does, over the months and years ahead.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Thanks, Dr. Russ. We'll look forward to you checking in the future. And I know we'll probably want to hear more about your book. Dr. Russell's also wrote a very interesting book. Thanks for being on.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, everyone, let's finish the presentation here and share with you how you can tap into this if you've been using it and do it better, or if you're new, how you can get involved with this new technology. Let me bring up the rest of the presentation. We'll go about 5 minutes here, and then we'll stick around and answer questions. Now, you learned the method. 50%'s the method. I can tell you, I know the industry, I know all the companies, I know all the competitors. Nobody's got the method. But the other half is the right band. And the right band is a band that's comfortable, it's effective, you can get it on, it lasts, but it is safe. And if you've used the B3 bands, you've seen these. We're the only company, because this is a patent, that has the multiple air chamber. Now, what can you do? You can go out there and you can get straps on Amazon. And I can tell you this right now, there's no professional team, Olympic athlete, or physical therapist that puts these silly things on. They are not designed for blood flow restriction. They're painful, they're cheap, and you need to avoid these. And they're not safe, and it is not a fun experience. And then there's clinical grade bands that cost from $1,500 up to $5,000. Those are used in the hands of a therapist or a doctor that function like a blood pressure cuff. And recently, in the last year, you've seen all this, of course, smart technology, double the cost, technology, batteries that aren't needed, and more complexity. Now, they'll work. And if you love tech and you want to spend twice the amount of money and have to charge them up, right? And you have to spend all the time getting them calibrated, you can use these. Or you can just go right to the best bands that use the Japanese technology. Flexible. By the way, our bands are the only bands that have safety studies that do not increase arterial pressure, meaning they don't function like a tourniquet or blood pressure cuff. And they don't put oxygen demand on the heart. Only B3 bands. They're the easiest to use and the most comfortable. Now, with what you've heard tonight, if you want to know more about, hey, where can I get these workouts? We are the only company that has a BFR platform. We have live instructors like Dr. Carl and Janine and Larry and Tammy and Gaylord. And who did I forget? Dr. Kyle, Denise. We have the largest on-demand library. So you can go right to your phone or your computer, join a live workout. Now, they're all going to be around 10 minutes. They're not going to be an hour. Some will be 5 minutes. And we've got the largest on-demand library. Go in and type in yoga. Type in upper body blast, golf with Gaylord. Type in your favorite kind of workout, and there'll be a workout to follow along with. And in here is where I've got all my methods, where you can learn how to listen to your body. This is the place for BFR. If you're in B3 and you've never accessed it, get your first 30 days for free, and then stick around for more content, or just come in for 30 days and get what you need. But if you've been in our company for a while and you've never experienced it, just reply to any of those emails you got. Just say free 30, and we'll set you up for your own live workouts. That's Janine right there. The other picture, that's Larry. Awesome BFR instructors. Now, let's get to the system. BFR and biological exercise is a system. It's not a gadget. It's not just a method. It's not just something that was developed in a garage. This is a scientifically proven system. You got to have the right equipment. You got to have the right system of BFR. You got to have the right methods, and you got to know how to apply it. No, you're not going to hurt yourself. But if you want these kind of results, then you want the system. And the system is $519, comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. By the way, B3 Sciences are the only ones that take back used bands. So if you don't love them, send them back. If you share it with a friend or family member or a patient, tell them, hey, if you don't love them, send them back. Dr. Mike will take them back. And you can start your own journey. And then join the bands family. And here's what the family's about. It's about we aren't finished. Doesn't matter if you hit a plateau or you've got pain or you're 70 and can't do it anymore. You're not finished. And you're certainly not broken. I wasn't broken at 48, 50 years old. I just had the wrong method. It wasn't me, it was the method. You see, we're not defined by pain, limitation, or plateaus. There's more. There is so much more. And I believe one day we're going to be talking about how we created the most centenarians, the most 100-year-old fit people, but we'll get to that in the future. There's one thing about being in the family. Two, actually. One, you got a personal responsibility to yourself to be the best you can be, to put on those bands 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. You pick it because you're worth it. You got 24 hours. Find 10 minutes for yourself. And then the family's got to get bigger, everyone. Hey, we got to grow this family. This is going to be the biggest exercise family in the history of exercise. I want to thank everybody for being on tonight. We're going to now stop the recording.